Hey guys, okay, so I thought that I would just show you my wiring and how I quickly plugged everything up to the flight controller. And a great way to start is actually the Zeus comes with a manual, which is really unlike many other controllers out there. A lot of them will just kind of just make you read the pads and kind of decipher on your own and Google around to figure it out. Well, here's the Zeus manual. We go over how I really did everything um, on my certain Cinedrone layout. And you can see it goes into some details here. We're just going to go real quick over what things I've actually put in. And it also gives you the specs, what MPU they're using, even the weight. Their flight, their CPU control is a F722, which is also the Holybro was also an F7, but a little bit different controller. Has a black box memory already in there, so you don't have to pull out the SD card. Input voltage is 3 to 6 lipos or cells, and we have 4S is the max we're going to go on our Cinedrone. It has BEC outputs. I think I messed up and said 7 volts, but it actually has a 5 and a 9 volt, and we'll talk about that as well. LED outputs has 4 ports for LEDs, which are really nice. So let's dive into it. How I set mine up and how you guys are probably going to do it your own. Here's the board front view. You can see here's the processor. How I did mine. Here's the 2 camera splits, and what you see is the C1 will be the first camera, and the C2 will be the second camera, which we'll add in the future. Then there's a ground near it and a 5 volt. So most cameras nowadays are 5 volts to 5 or 6S, voltage. But since we have a 5 volt, we'll utilize that here. And that's how I have mine right here, directly soldered onto each other. And if you look, here is the Vtx inputs. And they actually give you 2 examples, looks like here. They gave you one with a smart audio output. Well, actually, yeah, that's pretty much the same thing. Both are smart audio outputs here. And it'll show you ground 5 volt video into these pins. Now, what I did different was my VTX, I believe, was rated for 7 volts and above. So what I ended up doing was not doing this 5 volt to 5 volt. I did my VTX voltage to this 9 volt right here. So it gives you 9 volts of power. And that's how I did. And then I put my ground, my video, and then my smart audio, which we'll show you in beta flight how we also get that working. Went to TX3. So this TX3 went all the way to my smart audio, like so. So pretty simple in that sense. And look, you guys have also tons of areas for LEDs. Here's an LED port here, LED port. So you have 4. You can find 1 on each arm. I'm not doing that. Also, we have buzzer. So my buzzer was the gate. The V-Fly gate is a little bit different on wiring. It gives you a negative. You have to put your negative buzzer to the negative B, and your positive to the positive B. And I did that. And then it has a 3rd wire, which you don't see here. That one, it just goes straight to another negative. And so you can just find the negative on the board. There's a few that say ground. Actually, here, there's a ground right there. I believe I put on one of these up here. So I have 3 coming from my buzzer because my buzzer isn't traditional. It has a backup battery. So it needs to always be grounded, I believe, so when it's charging. And when this buzzer goes off, via your transmitter beta flight, it switches on the negative on and off, I believe. And here's the transmitter. So your radio is talking to here, and it's really cool. Look how clean this is. They give you fly sky, free sky. They give you crossfire. They give you different types with F ports and everything. And basically, all I did was follow this along the TBS Crossfire Nano RX. And then when I was talking about those notches and how clean, remember we soldered them up here, and here it is. It's ground 5 volt RX TX. And if you have a nano, is basically here, ground 5 volt, channel 1 and channel 2. And what that is channel 1 is going to be a TX and channel 2 is going to be an RX. And basically what you do is you do those a reverse to here. So if this is an R, this will go to a T, and if it's an R, this will go to a T back. And basically we just solder them onto these pads. And that's what I'm saying, be careful when you're soldering them on with that 5 volt being right there, because you have ground. You don't want to go over to this RSSI, which we're not using because we don't need that with Crossfire. Another cool fact, here on the bottom side, here's a layout here. It gives you a full port plug and play for GPS with Kopis. Some people I don't think you really need Kopis for just a basic rescue mode, but if you're using iNav on a quad, you'll want a Kopis. So this gives you the SDA, SCL, then 5 volt ground, RX, and TX. But you can just, if you just have a GPS, you can just use the RX, TX ground and 5 volt plug and play into that. And here's something also really cool is it comes with a port for DJI's digital system plugin. So remember, the reason I'm changing this out is I want more versatility with utilizing dual cameras, and also I don't have a DJI system, and I'm not planning on getting it anytime soon. So here you go, and look, this DJI port itself, if you look at it, you probably can has a 7 to 17 volt power range here, which I'm not sure why does it give you a range, but that may be something we can test in the future. So pretty simple in that sense. And if you go through the manual, it even tells you how to get your bootloader hooked up and troubleshoot a little bit, DFU mode. We won't talk about this now. We'll talk about this in the next part 2 of it. But I just wanted to show you that's what is going on. And right here, it will show you the UART serial port. If you followed along what I did above, UART1 will be the receiver, UART2 will be GPS, UART3 will be the Vtx, UART4 is DJI system, which we're not using, and UART6 is Esc telemetry. And maybe I'm going to just point this out. I know we talked about repitting, and here it is. Here's the split 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pin. So this was the one going back and forth from our ESC, and you see background, S1, S2, S3, S4. Those are the signals for the motors. Current and R6, which is UART6, and that'll be the telemetry for our ESCs. And what's cool is our the Holybro ESC that comes onto the Kopis has a telemetry, so we did utilize this. Although, like I said, I had to repin the other side to match this side because I believe voltage was somewhere in between here or somewhere else. So you just want to be really careful you get this right, because if you don't, whatever this goes into, it's going to fry the rest of this guy. All right, guys, so part 2, we're going to do a little overview and also get into beta flight and show you how that works. Oh, looks like I lied to you. We're going to go over the beta flight setup and what I have going on. Now, if you look up here, you can see I have the firmware 4.2. The pretty much late, I think 4.21 is out by now, but it might be something a little bit higher at this point. You can see the target. It's going to be the HGLR or F22 board. Make sure you always have the right target here, and we're going to dive into it. Calibrate accelerometer, there's a lot of videos on that. It's pretty simple. Keep it level. You click on it. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. But I'm just going to go over how we figured everything out. So ports are the important one. Now, if you went with the diagram provided by HGLR, this is going to be how you're going to want to do it. So you have the USB, doesn't take up a UART, which is nice. A UART1 is going to be your crossfire, and we have a serial RX clicked on. UART2 is not being used right now, so that could be used in the future. I believe in the manual that would be our GPS. I might be wrong. I have to look that up again. And also UART3 is our smart audio. So remember, we have smart audio on our TBS, and what I've clicked is the smart audio TBS. You might have the IRC version by immersion RC, but I have the smart audio by TBS. And also UART4 there's nothing here going on. And then UART6, pay attention to that. From those 6-pin connectors reconfigured, that's going to be our ESC sensor input. It's going to be our ESC telemetry, which is really cool to have. And that's it. And then once you're done with that, you click save and reboot. We've already done that. And in here, if you can take a look, is one thing that I want to do, to be honest with you, is reverse direction my motors. But you just can't click that and reverse them. That's just telling you the signal is going to come out thinking it's reversed, but it's not going to actually physically do anything. You have to get in BL Heli and reverse that, but for some reason I'm having issues trying to get into my BL Heli via flight controller on my Mac. So at some point we were going to reverse these just because all my quads now are reversed, so I like to keep them pretty consistent. Going down the line, 8 kilohertz PID loop frequency, we're doing a 2.6. You could probably bump it up, but so far we'll just keep it on this for the few test flights, see how that goes. Fpv Camera Angle, this is up to you. Some people mess with it, some people are pretty true. Some people keep it around 10 or 12. This seems to work for this low angle. I don't have much of an angle. I'll probably have 10 degrees, 12 degrees max. Because we're using Crossfire, it was hooked up to our serial-based receiver, S-Bus there. Pick a Crossfire protocol. Telemetry on, we want that. We don't have LED strips. I think my next build with this flight control, I'm definitely going to do LED strips. They look really cool, especially flying at dusk and dawn. Might help out. Air mode permanently on. OSD, we have an OSD Dynamic Filtering. We'll try that out. Sometimes this gives you problems, but usually on something like 4S, it shouldn't, especially on these clean motors. I don't think we'll have much issues there. These are all your preference on beeper configuration. We have a really loud beeper. The one thing I like to turn off is the USB. When it's plugged in, it's not going to be beeping on and off. So that's really nice. Our ESCs are D-Shot 600. Here you go. You want to enable ESC sensors because we have that telemetry going on. Bidirectional D-Shot requires support ESC frame. This works from my past experience. Not touching any of this stuff. This is pretty much set and go. Remember, we moved our flight controller 90 degrees because I wanted that USB-C to be in the front so I can access it easily. So it's going to be a negative 90, and that's going to clock it from here to here. So don't forget that. That's really important. And how do you double check? You would click and save, and then you go back to the setup, and then right here, this should match any movement you have going on to the picture here. And if it doesn't, it's because your flight control is the wrong way. So make sure you get that right. It says negative 90 for me. It should be for you if you're using the exact same setup as well. Power battery, we use onboard sensor for the voltage. Now battery, we have Esc Sensors. So we have that hooked up. That's working because we have telemetry. And you can see right here they're at 0 amps. That's really cool, these Esc sensors. So it has, combined how many amps they're pulling, 1, 2, 3. So you can see separate. That's really cool. You could probably do some logging with that with your black box if you're curious. Fail safe, we're just going to do a drop. At one point we're going to add GPS rescue, and that's when you click this guy on, and then you have all this to play with. But I think that's going to be another day, not today. We'll give that a drop. PID tuning. So I'm keeping this totally stock for the first flight. This is Betaflight 4.2. Now the only thing I've changed is I've gone to Betaflight and kicked down a CLI dump for Cinedrome settings. And what that does is, let's get a reset. Hold on one second. Okay, so what that does is when I did you go to Betaflight and they have like 4 or 5 settings. They have Cinedrome, HD, Pro Racer, and regular racing quad. And I just dropped their Cinedrome profile, and it changes the feed forward rating. It changes throttle boost. It changes all this stuff and some more. And that's what I set it at, a profile 1. I'll drop a link down below with the CLI that I used. And I don't know, I've had good feedback from other people, so why not try it out? On the receiver tab, we were making sure my radio's not plugged in at the moment, that these are all going the right direction. I'm using a Radio Master TX16S, so this works for me with the Crossfire. Yours might be different if you're using a different radio, so I'm not going to go over that. Flight modes, so I have an arm switch. I have angle and horizon. I don't really use angle mode. I'll usually land in horizon or take off just because it just seems to be smooth. Our beeper, remember our beeper in case we get stuck in some tall bushes or something, we have that. Flip over crash mode, that's called turtle mode. Now, I don't think that's going to be very useful with the ducks. We'll see, they might get caught up anyways if they're in something cumbersome like a tree, but we're hoping they're not going to get any trees. And then VTX pit mode, we haven't set that up yet. That's going to be something in the future we'll show you how to do. Adjustments, the only thing I've changed on this is, it's up to you, you don't have to do this, is the rate profile. I have it hooked up on a switch. So you saw how my PID tuning, you have different rates. So you can change it up, via switch if you like. That's totally optional. We don't have any servos. Motors, if you get to test out your motors, you want to pop these guys on. Next one is OSD. So OSD, pretty plain and simple. Drag and drop what you want. I have my warning signal. I have my signal quality. Link quality is what they call it on Crossfire. Amps, battery voltage per battery cell. So that gives you the average. Basically, it just divides it by 4. And then I have the RSSI, and then I have the flight mode. And that's fine. You can put flight time. I'll probably add that. That would be kind of cool to add as well. And the only other thing you have to set up is, according to your VTX, what your table looks like. Now, you can go through, the whole smart audio thing through TBS, and they'll give it to you, or you can just type it in. I recommend, you look it up, and then you can load it from file. There's a lot of videos on how to set up the VTX table, but this is how mine is with that VTX from Team Black Sheep. Pretty simple. It has your 3 power modes, which is nice: 25 milliwatt, 100 milliwatts, and 400 milliwatts. And that's it. We have black box. We can hook that up, give us some information if you like. And that's it. So next one, we're going to go do a little overview and then get ready for a flight. Take care. Bye.